There's the Davos consensus, which is, by the way, often wrong, is formed here. And right now, it is a sort of absolute binary belief that Donald Trump is going to unleash the animal spirits of the U.S. economy with no downsides, and that conversely, Europe needs to get with the program and deregulate everything.
The 24-hour news cycle hits warp speed when Donald Trump's in the White House, and that's proving to be even more true of his second administration than his first. Overnight, we've had everything from a threat to tighten sanctions on Russia unless President Putin agrees to peace talks over Ukraine, to hints that outgoing President Biden might be prosecuted. And, of course, global business gathered this week in Davos, Switzerland, for the annual World Economic Forum, remains mesmerized by everything Trump does. He's appearing there today via video link. Ben Smith is co-founder, editor-in-chief of the influential news website Semafor, and he joins us today from Davos. Ben, welcome back on the program. The Wall Street Journal reports this morning that the mood in Davos is optimism about US business, less so for the rest of the world, especially Europe. Is that broadly right?
Yes, I mean, not just broadly, but sort of energetically right. And Davos, it's a place that locks all these financial elites in a Swiss ski town and does an incredible job of persuading them all to agree on everything. And it's and there's the Davos consensus, which is, by the way, often wrong, is formed here. And right now, it is a sort of absolute binary belief that Donald Trump is going to unleash the animal spirits of the U.S. economy with no downsides, and that conversely, Europe needs to get with the program and deregulate everything. I would say that's basically the consensus here. I should say the consensus in the beginning of 2020 here, which I kind of remember vividly, was that there were lots of threats on the horizon, but certainly a global pandemic was not one of them.
Though Davos is probably not alone in not seeing that coming. I was saying in my monologue just before we came to you that Trump is dangling...
I've been listening, Andrew.
Sorry, Ben?
I said I've been listening.
Oh, right. So what I was saying in the monologue is that Trump is dangling lower taxes, cheaper energy, less regulation. It's not immediately clear how Europe competes with all that. I know there's talk of less regulation, but let's see you get that go through Brussels.
No, I mean, I think that is the truth that you see in a lot of, particularly just the explosive development technology in the United States right now, that the European countries are struggling to compete, European companies struggle to raise the kind of money that these hyperscalers are spending on AI. Talented European founders move to California. I mean, I think it's obviously a real challenge, and without an obvious solution, although obviously, Mario Draghi is trying.
Indeed, and there's a lot of sense in his report too. It's the implementation that would seem to be the problem, as it always is in Europe, getting all the countries to agree. I see there's even talk, though there's no names on this, of some companies thinking of moving their headquarters to America.
I mean, I think Trump is in this moment right now of wanting to announce huge deals and with large price tags. Some of them always a bit fictional, right, or announcing deals that have already been done. But I think, European CEOs as well as US ones are telling us here that they are planning to spend as much time in Washington as they can, because the most important thing with Trump is physical proximity, and everybody wants to be the last one to have talked to him. Interesting.
Is there much talk, moving a little away from business, is there much talk in Davos about Ukraine? In years gone by, there's been lots. Mr. Trump has posted on his Truth Social website that Putin needs to come to peace talks or face huge sanctions and tariffs. Is there a sense that is going to produce a breakthrough, that the Russians will see this as a real threat and therefore peace talks will begin?
It's funny. I think the only break with the broad worship of Donald Trump here is on Ukraine, where many European diplomats and officials and business leaders follow that very, very closely, and don't understand how Donald Trump thinks he's they don't think Trump really has a strategy for dealing with Vladimir Putin. Don't see what incentive he has up his sleeve to bring Putin to the table.
It's interesting that you say there's a kind of broad worship of Donald Trump in Davos, because you know better than me, Ben, that for a long while everything Davos stood for was this sort of antithesis of of Donald Trump, and he regarded it as the same. They were the globalists, they were the elite, they were all part of the deep state apparently as well. And yet here you are saying now that Davos and Trump and the Donald are in some way aligning.
Well, I mean, you saw many, the richest and most powerful American CEOs who had 4 years ago been in varying degrees denouncing Donald
Indeed.
Trump on stage with him. I mean, I think, and they are saying now that, well, these reflect their true beliefs, and that everything they were just pretending because they were being bullied by Joe Biden and Barack Obama before. And, in the next Democratic presidency, we look forward to them saying the opposite again. I mean, there is a tradition that business leaders try to stay out of this kind of politics because it swings so fast. And I do think that, this rush to embrace Donald Trump seems to involve an expectation that it's not going to change again. And I don't totally know where that's coming from.
No, exactly, because things do change. We don't know how long this will be bedded down. But for a long time, Davos man seemed to encapsulate globalism and a certain woke approach to various things as well, sort of combining profits with progressive social attitudes.
Yes.
Is Davos man now in decline?
Well, I think that, Davos man has been whatever the face of global capitalism is. And right now it is a more nationalist, more US centric, approach. I guess there's a question of whether Davos in Switzerland can continue to capture that. I mean, a lot of the people here probably spend more time in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi and in Riyadh than they do in Paris and London. And I think, the sort of new global economy doesn't necessarily revolve around Switzerland. And I think that actually maybe is the biggest challenge for Davos. I mean, Donald Trump's first visit is not going to be to Europe.
That's very interesting, and Trump will welcome that change away from the old centres of power to new. Overnight, he gave an interview to Fox News where he trotted out pretty familiar lines, but he also suggested that Mr. Biden took bad advice by not pardoning himself, kind of implicating that, hey, maybe Mr. Biden will be prosecuted. Now, is he just trolling Biden?
Who knows? I mean, I think he had said 2 days earlier that the era of political prosecutions that he believed he lived through was over, but many of his aides have threatened prosecution against their political enemies. I mean, I think, if you were talking about another country, you'd say there was a very strong regulatory climate, but there in the United States, but real political risks around rule of law. And I think that's something that a lot of these CEOs racing to Washington will probably also have to figure out.
Indeed, they will. Now, Trump is, I understand, going to address remotely, I think probably from Washington, the Davos assembled masses today. Do we know when he's going to do that? And are there any advance lines coming out?
It'll be at 5 p.m. Davos time. He'll be kind of in conversation with CEOs, including the private equity titan Steven Schwartzman, the CEO of Total Energy, a couple others, the Bank of America CEO. I mean, to me, it's a very, he'll be on the big screen, and these, world-beating executives will be sort of gazing upward, hoping to pick up some of the animal spirits from the from the digital transformation. It's like everybody's waiting for the Zoom call with the boss and hoping that he'll even know which office he's calling into.
There'll be more kissing the ring as the tech bros have done.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's where we are right now. Because Washington, and this isn't just started with Biden, is poised to leap back into industrial policy, which really is often just a word for the president being able to decide which companies get billions of dollars. So that also makes Washington much more interesting to CEOs.
Well, it'll be worth looking at. It's obviously, although he's not there in person, probably is going to be the high point of Davos and will tell us quite a lot about business attitudes. He's speaking 5 p.m. Davos time. You say that's 4 p.m. UK time this afternoon. Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of Semafor, a must-read newsletter and website. Ben, thank you for joining us.